rights and promote safe working environment, promote beneficial sustainable tourism, universal access to banking, insurance, and financial services, increase aid for trade support, develop a global youth employment strategy. When we talk about this, then we see that how the promote beneficial and sustainability tourism in 2030, it has to be completed. This is the agenda of the UNA. Devise and implement policies to promote sustainable tourism that creates jobs and promotes local culture and products through the tourism. Every country is focusing on that. In the universe, access to banking, insurance, and financial services, it is a strength, the capacity of domestic financial institutions to encourage and expand access to banking, insurance, and financial services for all. When we talk about the increased aid for the trade support, trade is a backbone of each and every country. Increase aid for trade support for developing countries, in particularly least developed countries, include through the enhanced integrated framework for trade related technical assistance to least developed countries. And in the target 8.B, we are going to focus the develop a global youth employment strategy. Already due to pandemic, every country's economic has been fallen down and a lot of the crises are there. Now each and every country government is focusing on this and trying to boost their economics, and employment is a very important part. So global strategy for the youth employment and implement the global jobs pact of the international level organization is very important. Today with us, eminent speakers are here from Malaysia, from India, from Turkey. They are going to focus on each target. I would like again give a big welcome all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now we are going to commence with the very first target, that is target 8.9 for today's event, promote beneficial and sustainable tourism. For this, I would like to invite Dr. Ahmed Albert, PG Coordinator Management and Science University, Malaysia. Sir, you are welcome, please.
Thank you so much, dear Priya. Thank you for inviting me for this very much important session. And thank you, Prof. Gujarati ma'am, for the always supporting and inviting for the very much important SDGs in our industries and to do the best for our work. So allow me to share my slides. And today we are going to talk about the SDG target 8.9, where we will be focusing on the promoting the beneficial and sustainable tourism to support the SDG initiative for our industry, and also especially now under the post-pandemic area, where a lot of issues are happening in our industry, in the hospitality and tourism. And unfortunately, we are one of the most infected industries all over the world with any disaster, any crisis, or any emergency happen. Even with low-scale emergencies, we can say, or low-scale disasters. And this pandemic was one of the hardest time for the industry was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. So my name is Dr. Ahmed Al-Battat. I am a senior lecturer and postgraduate coordinator in Postgraduate Center Management and Science University. And it's my pleasure to be with you today to deliver my humble talk regarding the SDG number 8. So of course, you are most welcome to join us in our initiative also regarding regarding the SDGs, and also we are very much open, welcome you to collaborate and in all effort, research, and in the initiative to support the SDGs all over the world. So we have a lot of projects actually. One of them are the very much important project in MSU. We have the My Coral, where we implant the artificial environment for the coral to grow up in the most of the infected areas in Malaysia. Also, we have a lot of other projects regarding the SDGs like My River and so on. So what about the target 8.9? By the year 2030, the implement of the policies to promote the sustainable tourism that create the jobs and promote the local culture and the product. And as per the UN, the tourism direct, of course, to the GDP and also the proportion of the total GDP in the growth rate, especially in some of the countries where the tourism have a direct impact on the GDP, even more than 60–70%. And yesterday also was one of the presentation from Maldives. Dr. Muna also was highlighting regarding the employment and in a country also where the tourism highlighted a big portion of the GDP, total GDP in the growth rate. The proportion of these jobs also is sustainable tourism industries out of the total tourism jobs, where we have a lot of jobs related to the industry. So the combination of the economic growth and the decent work, the SDG-8 combined the target of the economic growth and the decent work into one goal, where the tourism has a vital role to play in the achieving the objective of the 2030 agenda for the sustainable development. The decent work has been also recognized as a priority by the many international organizations such as the ILO, UNDP, UNEP, and UNWTO, where the decent work was very much important for them to have a good working environment for the employees and also for the workers in the industry. The decent work and the tourism, why it was a very much important topic in all those organizations, because a growing number of contracts that do not safeguard the worker right, the increasing of the flexibilization of the jobs resulting on the unacceptable workload that diffuse the job description and the task. Employees, they were asked to do a multiple task job, and there is a lot of issues used by the flexibility in doing the work, where the worker, they need to work more than the 8 hours per day, day and night, having all those tasks where it affecting their mutual their health and so on. A growing number also of the health issues and failure of addressing the gender equality and the gender violence, where we are talking about the decent work also in an industry very much related to the human power, and very much we are connected and to the human. So also the violence will be there, and the gender equality also will be there, where always we have that a lot of ladies, they are working or in the industry where they have less working managerial positions and also less wages. The COVID-19 and the tourism economic growth, we all know that the COVID-19 has disrupted the billion of life and endangered the global economy for the last 2 years. And the International Labour Organization, the ILO, estimate that nearly half of the global workforce also, it was under the risk of losing their livelihood. Before the COVID-19, one of the five countries were likely to see per capita income stagnate or decline in the 2020. Even before the COVID-19, the countries was like estimate that we will have some stagnation in the market because of several other resources such as the financial crisis and so on. But the post the pandemic, the economic and the financial shock associated with the COVID-19, raising the insecurity and also derailing the already tapped economic growth and also compounding the heightened the risk from other factors also, such as health and the other economic factors. For the economic related to the tourism, and also before the COVID-19, as just now we mentioned, like 2% from the GDP per capita was reported in the years to 2010 to 2018, where it became 1.5 in the year 2019, and of course by the end of 2020, it was like based on the report from the UN, it was like to be declined by 4.2, but for sure it was declined more than that because the situation was very much bad, and also it was more than and worse than the economic recession was happening in the last century. During the pandemic, 1.6 billion workers in the informal economy having a risk to lose their livelihood, and the tourism also having to face the unprecedented challenge. The international tourists, they decline so much hardly for the pandemic, and for those scenarios for the last 2 years. The informal economy also workers like they have a lack of social safety net. They were significantly affected by the pandemic, especially if they are not legal workers, or they having an issue about the contract and so on. So it was very much also hardly affecting them other than the formal worker in the industry. Of course, we are talking about the direct and indirect employment. The pandemic also led to increase in youth not employed in school or in training, then hitting mainly the women, the young women, by 31.1% rate of the women who are in education, employment, or in training in the 2019, comparing to the young men was hit by 14% of their population, the young men population, I mean. To continue with the pandemic, also loss of the equivalent of 255 million full-time job in all sectors, about 4 times more than the number lost during the global financial crisis happening in 2007-2009. In other reports, we are talking about 400 million indirect job losses. As we know, in the industry, in the hospitality tourism industry, the indirect job affected by the pandemic, sometimes even more than the local or the figures mentioned about the full-time jobs, because it's very much hard sometimes to measure how indirect jobs will be suffered, but it's really very much important to check about those kind of numbers who are hit very much hardly by the pandemic. The economic recovery under the wave, like when you are talking about the past 5 years during the report from the United Nations, we was having some kind of depression and also the recession for the past 3 years past the pandemic. But now the numbers, of course, they was talking about minus 4.6, but many countries economic growth expected to return to the pandemic, but not less than 2022 and 2023. For some economic experts, they are also highlighting not less than 2024 or 2025 for the recovery post-pandemic. So we need to have a lot of effort, a lot of issues that we need to do, a lot of tasks, a lot of plans to back to the economy and back to the normal situation. Although the losses was very much hard. For the international also tourist arrival, also the decline was there from 1.5 billion in 2019, falling down to only 381 million in 2022. The tourism was not expected to return to the 2019 level, maybe up to after 4 years and so on. But still, we need to have a good plans how we want to back to the normal, although we are still in the non-normal situation during during this area, because we are still in the uncertain time. For the action plan, that I think this is the latest issues about the action plan from the United Nations, the framework for the immediate socio-economic response to the COVID-19 as a roadmap to support the country's path, and also to the social and the economic recovery. It's very much important to have all the plans, all the frameworks to work together locally, nationally, and internationally to reach the support for the countries, and also to support the social and the economic recovery to come back to the normal in the shortened time. I hope it will be not like 5 years and above. I hope that it will be less than that time. The responsive plan or the responsive framework by the United Nations have 5 streams of work, working first about the health services, about the social protection, protecting the jobs and supporting the SMEs, the informal sector workers, and using the economic response and the recovery programs, guiding the fiscal and the financial stimulus to make the macroeconomic policies work, and also to promote the social cohesion and the investing in the community-led resilience and response system. I hope by this framework can help a lot in back to normal, and also highlight the issues very much concerning and related to the COVID-19. By this, thank you so much for having me today. I always try to be short and concise about the talk, and I will be back for you, Ms. Priya, for the continue with our activity for today. Thank you so much, Madam Gujarati, for having me, and we work together as usual for the best of our SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now we have Professor Dr. Raza Suzana, Professor of Entrepreneurship, University Malaysia. Prior to joining academia, she served the industry in agri-tech organization as a consultant. She took an active role in local youth community-based organizations and disadvantaged groups such as the disabled students. Her international engagement includes visiting scholars at Babson College, MA, USA, the faculty fellow at the Stanford Technology Venture Program at Stanford University, California, USA. Raza Suzana has spoken widely on these topics in both local and Commonwealth countries. She has more than 20 years of experience in Startup Nation and is in charge of coordinating the bottom 40 youth startup programs at major universities. She is developing more than 500 youth startups, partnering with the global mentor entrepreneurs, as well as promoting excellence in entrepreneurial competency. Ma'am, you are cordially invited for the target 8.10, that is universal access to banking, insurance, and financial services. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Such a lovely introduction. I wish to perhaps just have a quick flash on my presentation. I think first thing and foremost, maybe my appreciation goes to the organizer, in particular, Professor Dr. Rashmi. Thank you very much for inviting a second speaker from Malaysia. So I'm currently a local here, citizen of Malaysia, and the topic assigned to me is on SDG 8.10, Universal Access to Banking, Insurance, and Financial Services. In particular, perhaps I would like to draw your attention perhaps on a very quick one about University Malaysia, Kelantan. We are actually the first entrepreneur university established in Malaysia, mandated by the government of Malaysia. We have stood, you see, with all the missions to become the first by 2023 in Malaysia itself. And we actually have aimed that, we have achieved the objectives. And in ASEAN by 2026 and in Asia by 2030. So the current standard of what we have been delivering about, entrepreneurship values is on our great outcome on graduate employability, where you see they appear to be like a good, I must say, achievable target. It has been reached about 13% of the country. You see, more than 10% of the targeted, and the rest of others is actually just to let you know where currently my university is. We are on the East Coast area of Malaysia that is just facing the South China Sea, and I'm currently reside in Kuala Lumpur. It's just like a day trip, 1 hour flight from Kuala Lumpur to Kota Baru. So if it is by road, it will be 8 hours. I was a past director for the Global Entrepreneurship Research and Innovation Center. So my presentation today will cover a little bit more about, you see, the aspiration of Malaysia, about getting ourselves into the Malaysian development journey. And in particular, SDG-08, quite a number of us these past few days have been tackling this, and I will be focusing on the universal access to banking, insurance, and financial services, and a little bit here and there about the success value story, and I will conclude my presentation. So Malaysia comprises of the Peninsular Malaysia, as you can see here, right, and Sabah and Sarawak, and Peninsular Malaysia is actually separated by the South China Sea. And the neighboring country, for those who are from India, perhaps other country, we are having around us Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, and Brunei here. So there are 13 states in the country with the federal territories of Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur as our capital. So currently, the estimated population of Malaysia is around, you see, for the first quarter of 2021, there are approximately about 33 million, which have been increased, and population by sex, by gender is actually 1-to-1 between male and female. And in particular, we see the urban population was estimated around almost 30 million, which actually also comprised of non-citizens, about 3 million. And this is actually the population by citizens by ethnic group, because we are harmonizing, I must say, Bumiputra is the indigenous Malay, Sabah and Sarawak, and also we have Chinese and Indian and other. Majority, about 70% are indigenous Sabah and Sarawak, and also the Bumiputra itself, which is Malay. All right, in explaining the development journey, I think I must map this out. I think the previous presenter was highlighting, I must say, a general perspective of the United Nations overview, but Malaysia has always take this as significant, and we connect to the 11, now we are moving to 12 Malaysian plan, because it is just a couple of months ago on the 12th that we have a review about all this, in terms of connecting all the important SDGs. So the priority here is actually, I'm looking at this Sustainable Development Aid, which engage pretty much clear with the rest of other, and there are several priority areas and sub-strategies. So if I may just have a very quick interest of other country, I think I like listening to our friends. Malaysia also have their roadmap preparations. This has been led by a very clear governance structure of our National SDG Council, which is led by the Prime Minister. And we have several working committees that inclusively have been focusing on all this. And under this, we have a cluster working committee. So today I'll be focusing on the economic growth, about the decent work, and you see, the thing that connect to the growing development itself. So this is importantly very critical, because it plays a key important area to ensure that prosperity. We are having number of races actually established in the country. So we wish to have all the prosperity element, and along the line, making sure that it is improving the well-being. And at the same time, it is also become the basis for the Malaysia to trade. And importantly, as the university itself pursue the entrepreneurship, we always also support in terms of generate employment and entrepreneurial opportunities. So here, in sustaining the growth itself, right, it all will try to pursue the full employment capacity in terms of, you see, try to balance within all the economic and social aspect. So in promoting the sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth and productive employment and decent work for all, Malaysia is not just talking on the perspective of goal number 8. Yeah, it always have its combination of the rest of other pillar because it has to go together. Yeah, so they have a cluster in this. So it brings along together SDG 8, 9, and 17 because that serve as, you see, the fundamental components on how we can make the economy much better and healthier. So that include the rest of others that maybe we will not be talking so deep here. But let us move and take a look on the my concern. Yeah, my assign is to discuss further on SDG 8.10. All right, so a number of achievement in terms of the things, I think before I move on, right, in every aspect of those, I just wish to highlight here when we talk about economic growth, yeah, Malaysia has expanded our growth national income per capita, yeah, since the beginning of, we started the journey up to 2020, this is the data gathered from the Prime Minister's office, yeah, we have been increasing labor productivity, even businesses, we have been increasing quite tremendously. 98.5% is actually comprised of the SMEs. Yeah, the total export has also been like contributing a lot in terms of labor participation, in particular the female, right? Yeah, though it's not so much, but having like almost 56% is considered like quite tremendous for the country, and the rest of others, it goes along. Yeah. So I think the rest of my other friends, because I've been talking about this, you see the coverage of all of the other SDG. So I'm just going to like skip all the slides and perhaps moving on to the straight to 8.10. Yeah. So give me 1 minute. Okay, so SDG 8.10 is all about how we try to strengthen the capacity of what interests in the country, yeah, in particular the domestic financial institutions, to encourage and expand access to banking, insurance, and financial service. And this is actually meant for all. So we have several issues and challenges. What have been notable about the government concern is about perhaps getting themselves connected to the technology advancement, and there appear to be a lack of diverse Islamic finance industry players. It has been increasingly critical today because demand has been like escalating, right? So vibrant Islamic financial market appear to be like everywhere, in particular those even non-Islam, yeah, they also pursue a number of interesting things that connect to Islamic finance. So the other issue is on lack of innovative Islamic financial product. So in those capacity, we also have several targeted area in the effort to strengthen those capacity, right, to encourage and expand access to banking. The indicator was actually to look at the number of, particularly the commercial bank branches. Yeah, so it has been calculated that each of those branches would have like almost 100,000 adults, and even the automated teller machine also has been given a good indicator. So there appear to be number of commercial bank branches, yeah, and automated teller within those area that have been set here. So the concept and definition here is actually to make you understand about the connection to the financial access, is to see the number of commercial bank branches per 100,000 adults. Yeah. So importantly, this could be linked to the how we advance, yeah, nature of access to the finance, and even proportion of adult 15 years and older who have an account at the bank and other financial institutions, and even with the mobile money service provider. So here we have respectively between male and female numbers, right? So the percentage is actually those who exactly have been at least used the mobile, yeah, during the COVID-19. I think everybody has been exposed to those activities. So the way forward is actually to look at how Malaysia positioned as a global Islamic finance marketplace through innovative Islamic financial product and services. So this also includes some of the green financing activity, so that government is strengthening governance and regulatory framework, in particular about getting themselves support in the trade opportunities, and at the same time also encouraging number of local industry to participate. So that helped a lot in the development of the human capital. So my participation on the United Nations was to serve as one of the external, as an external evaluator on a number of these SDG projects that we have been working with the Prime Minister's Office and the Malaysian Industry High Growth MITE as the project management unit. So we have been doing some analysis and to look about the accessibility of those activities. And this was given a lot of great implementation performance. Sorry. So we have been tasked, by United Nations to make sure that, the project management has covered all of these implementation performance where we evaluate, number of startup and SME that had been participated, and almost $1 million US has been funded to this program. And I was part of those who have been evaluating all the Global Environment Fund, to make sure that, the access into the aspect of getting finance in particular, the link to the entrepreneurs, even academia investors who have been getting themselves into this activity. And we even create a consultative platform so that it is actually mobilized the SDG agenda. So in promoting those, we are also getting Malaysia to exhibit its innovative solution to a wider network across the globe. And we will also like to make sure that we become one of the reference center for the activity that connects to access to finance, and in particular the clean tech innovation. So interestingly, you see, when we accelerate the SDG goals, I think the important aspect is actually to move about the entrepreneurship ideation for impact. On all of this activity, I think the utmost important of today is all about access to finance. So this will involve number of interesting stakeholders. And one of the areas that have been a truly success is, I think, the innovation that connects to artificial intelligence that perhaps I just have maybe share with you. How could that give another value? Because this is to respond to the issue just now about Malaysia lacking of the financial access in terms of what they call Islamic social finance. So we try to promote activity because we did number of research throughout years of our studies. So this is actually evidence from the British Council earlier on report, getting a lot of things. This is actually also indicator that appear to be responsive to the what SDG have been lacking about in terms of access to finance. So we come up with all these issues after doing a number of surveys, and what we see, when we talk about maybe strengthening the position of Islamic finance in particular, we want to make sure they have this sustainable value-based intermediation that respond to sustainability material issues. So almost more than 1 million of this category of entities have been participated, and you see what we found interestingly, we are able to showcase artificial intelligence as one of the analogies, tool and platform that could help understanding, the bankers as a provider of the finance accessibility, and also the user, those micro SME NGOs and whatnot, so they can use our innovations, to make sure that they meet within the standard of whatever that could help them to get the accessibility and financial health. So in particular, what we do is actually to look at their financial statements in making sure the data set is clear. And from there, of course, I think the energy of AR is to work along number of, a lot of things on big data, their machine learning, and from there we can integrate to the whatever software that banking institution has. So the functionality is actually to be able to offer all these important elements in terms of assess, rate, classify, benchmark, monitor, and even reporting the extra financial data. So that gives us a very good indicator to see the correlation between some of the output, and that is also able to make a good insight in terms of explaining the environment, social, and governance, that is the ESG side of the things that connect to the business opportunity. So the impact here is actually have been getting a lot of inclusivity in terms of explaining the role of you see the innovation to connect to the context of what do we call accessibility to finance using technology. So this innovation has offered SDG disclosure, where enterprise can make sure they're making a good data to explain about their non-financial reporting, their structure and process, the sustainability measures, sustainability focus area, and even strategy. Yeah, so that explain how economic growth and environmental and even social strategy can help in terms of inclusive development strategy and even monitoring the social aspect. So here, technologies and solutions for economic and environmental challenges meet the SDG 8.10, yeah, because it also connects to what the government currently has been announcing here by national, national plan, 12th national plan. Yeah, the use of technology appear to be like critical, and they have been urging so many those inventors to come up with ideas. So this is actually one of the area that help us to understand about how it can help to explain the role of accessibility of finance using technology and explain the SDG performance. So interestingly, I think I must share with you, we have get to number of international recognition, and it has been like a number of years. Actually, this is actually the 4th years. So it has gone through a number of improvement, and from that agenda, we even have a very interesting during our recent Malaysian Technology Sustainability Award. We have won the best and also a recipient of this Halal Business Pollen, yeah, in terms of the practicability and the use of those. So SDG ideation here perhaps can help to transform. Yeah, when we talk about social change, it's just not about the idea of what the government has, but it has to work along on the startup venture as well. So finance and tech career preparation programs, entrepreneurship such as training program, yeah, academic development, data collection, analysis, and even policy design would help to explain about how we can support government to move along all the issues and challenges they have been experiencing in their decent work and academic growth explanation. So in conclusion, my presentation here covers all those elements 8.10 in terms of social and economic inequalities, yeah, into access to finance. It has been becoming more prevalent, right, in terms of helping this COVID-19. Yeah, SME has gone through a number of interesting area. And we have been like working
faculty जाएगी अगर जाना चाहेगी तो पेमेंट करके ही है सब
our SDG roadmap has present a good thing in terms of our
हाँ सबकी same cost लगेगी
and we have fulfilled those commitment to achieve the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Right, thank you very much for listening.
एक ही को मिलेगी किसी को भी अब वैसे तो फिलहाल उसमें सारी की सारी.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Now we have target 8A, that is increase aid for trade support. We have Anak Agnuk Gare Satya Utma, Assistant Professor, Universities Erlangana, Indonesia. Sir, you are please invited.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much to join this international summit. And thank you for Professor Rasmi to inviting me. This is my second invitation to talk about sustainability development goal. On July, I was speaking about SDG-7, affordable energy. And today I will share my my point of view about SDGs 8.8, yeah, increasing aid for fair of trade. Let me share my slide presentation. Mm. Mm. Okay, have you seen my screen now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Wait. It's still loading. Mm. Oh, wait for a moment. Mm. Okay, I try to not in the slide. Yeah, I will share about the increased aid for trade support. Okay, and we know about the mainstreaming trade to attain the sustainability development goals. There are some report. Yeah, there's some report for knowing about the aid for the sustainability goal from the annual report by Bank for International Settlements, from the International Accounting Standard Board, from the International Financial Reporting Standard, International Monetary Fund, World Intellectual Property Organization, and World Trade Organization on the relationship between international rules and the SDGs and the implementation of relevant of SDG targets. And what I found in the sum of this report, there are closing the gender gap, yeah, could potentially increase in the size of global economy by 2 trillion USD in 2025. And what of the point of view of my presentation today, in fair trade in SDGs 8.8, they're promoting more inclusive access to good quality jobs, including for women, migrants, and marginalized groups, increasing labor productivity and improving access to financial services, and benefit are essential components of sustained and inclusive economic growth. Currently, we are heading the digitalization, the globalization, demographic, and climate change are bringing about the significant change in the rate of the composition of productivity growth, business dynamics, and employment gains. And also in the SDGs 8.8, we focus on wage dispersions is largely explained by an increase in wages between firms rather than within them. And the innovations is a key to the drive long-term productivity and income growth. The digitalization in particular offers great scope for improving production methods, but firms' uptake of new technology is uneven. In the poor access to finance and skilled labor undermine business potential for growth. We also focus on bringing more workers in formal jobs will offer better prospect to improve skills and productivity while providing them with better social protections. And the last one, the point of view is reducing gender pay gaps in turn could make it more financially attractive for women and for women to work, thus making labor markets more inclusive. The all of point of view you can see on the OECD library.org. Okay, and next, we already know what the terminology of the fair trade. Maybe for some people said fair trade, is it a fair trade? Yeah. And the definition of fair trade in the some literature in the some organizations, yeah, in WFTO launch fair trade is in 2008 is a membership organization that includes organization and individuals from 75 countries. Yeah. And for fair trade, for example, in the USA, an offshoot of Fair Trade International that was formed around 2011. And I found that when we talk about the fair trade, this is still the paradox of the fair trades, because we hitting the challenging between the producers and between the between the consumers. In SDGs number 8, yeah, this is especially for the impact of the COVID-19. The SDGs number 8 is a very high concerns, yeah, because in the pandemic, the impact of the COVID-19, the SDG 8, we hitting the global economic crisis because of disturbance in trade, massive unemployment, and closures of businesses. For example, in the fashion industry, the challenge is the decent work and the economic growth, and also in the agricultures, yeah, and also the agriculture, the impact of the SDGs 8.8. The agriculture is the mainstay of the global economy with over a billion people working in the sectors. And yet we must face the challenging that young people are abandoning agriculture to migrate to often informal and insecure work in urban centers or on larger farms. And also for agricultural workers often lack formal contracts, freedom of association, basic health and safety assurance, yeah, and inclusive and sustainable economic growth can only be achieved if farmers have a robust livelihoods, and if all workers have their right to secure and self-employment fulfilled and receive a living wage that enable them to survive and thrive. So the fair trade promotes better working conditions. Workers on fair trade plantation, for example, in the agriculture, in the banana sector, for example, had 100% indefinite term contract compared to 16% for those of non-fair trade plantations. And fair trade support workers in the formal sector to negotiate better pay and conditions, working in the partnership with trade unions and labor rights organizations. And fair trade is working together with other standard setters to ensure common approach to calculating and paying a living wage. The farmers need to be empowered with a sense of ownership in fair trade, and this could be accomplished with fair trade re-engaging the farmer at grassroots level. In another method to combat this issue is to be more selective when certifying organizations. In particular, should only certify organizations that empower farmers right up the supply chains, giving them a sense of value add from their work and voice in decisions making. And for the conclusions of the SDGs 8.8, the 8 for trade can play a major role and should strive to allocate an increasing proportion going to least developed countries. Both the SDGs and 8 for trade objective are dependent on integrated policy approach and trade-offs. Aid for trade should contribute to the economic objective of developing countries by helping them to connect their firms to international market and expand and diversify trade. Aid for trade should help achieve social objectives by reducing poverty and inequalities. And the last one, aid for trade should pursue environmental objectives to helping developing countries adapt to climate change while exploiting comparative advantage in low carbon productions. I think that's my presentations today. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the presentation. Now it's time to move to the target 8B, that is develop a global youth employment strategy. I would like to call Dr. Asena Bontas, Associate Professor, Head of International Trade, Sakarya University, Applied Sciences, Turkey. Sir, you are welcome, please.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I think it's the last presentation. I hope you won't be bored because I will give some suggestions to you while you are studying and while you are taking education. You can have a job at the same time. In our university example, I will give you, maybe we will have a good project with all our professor in here. We can give project to United States also, if you enjoy and if you think that it would be better for our youth students. And I want to share my screen first of all. And this is the model I will talk about. And Sustainable Development Goal 8 develop a global youth employment strategy. It's the very important point of the new generation's problem, I can say. And what does it mean? We have to know this. By 2020, develop and operationalize a global strategy for youth employment and implement the Global Jobs Pact of the International Labour Organization. It means like that. And only one indicator we are talking about, existence of a developed and operationalized national strategy for youth employment. This is the very important point because its reasons and results could be changed country by country. You know this. India to Turkey, it could be changed, and some general points could be at the same time. For example, I want to give an example from Turkey. While evaluation the breaking moments of need youth, the Young Life Foundation in Turkey stated that the reasons vary between men and women youth change. Social capital is for young girls and economic capital for young men. We can say that it's changed to for the genders also. And while we are talking about the Sustainable Development Goal, Global Youth Employment Strategy, what is the meaning of youth? We have to know that the people who are the 15 and 24 years old people called as a youth. Most of you are youth. And your problems are very important about the employment, as you know. The youth employment rate should be reported separately for formal and informal also, with the gender position, and the latter of particular importance in developing countries. And it's some important points on account workers in their own informal sector enterprises, and employers self-employed with employees in their own informal sector enterprises, contributing family workers, irrespective of type of enterprise, members of informal producers cooperatives not established as a legal entities, employees holding informal jobs as defined according to the employment relationship in law or in practice, jobs not subject to national labor legislation income taxation, social protection, or entitlement to certain employment benefits. And these are very important. Own accounts workers engaged in production of goods exclusively for final use by their household also. We recommend that the indicator could be disaggregated by sex and urban also to understand the differential composition of men and to women in the formal and informal sectors. And at the same time, we have to talk about the broad-based employment. This is very important. For formal and informal youth employment is preferable to understand unemployment measures that focus only on the formal sectors. However, informal employment is not systematically measured in all countries while we are looking at the statistical data. So many are beginning the process of defining and measuring informal employment.
Aduh, dapat di Pura Desa. sampai ke Pura Desa loh di sini. Biat. Pura Desa baru.
We are hearing you. Thank you so much. And there is one point we have to talk about. Unlike most SDG targets with target for 2040, but the goal date in this indicator is 2020. This is disadvantage, I think. According to the data, especially, this shows us we have to give importance to this global youth employment strategy. And of course, the pandemic effect is very important in this section, in this employment, youth employment, because when the COVID-19 pandemic began, the employment situation comes to all over the world and facing especially the young people. And young people have felt and affect much more than maybe the other people, because pandemic response policies couldn't taken by the countries' governments. And COVID-19 or lockdown generation concepts has emerged to describe the economic and labor markets carrying that may impact young people in the coming years also. And pandemic affected much more, but especially pandemic affected the young women, young youth women, we can say. In the pandemic shows how multiple forms of gender disadvantage remain. We can talk this very much, but I want to pass, I want to give some results to you. How can we solve these problems also? And a global employment trends for youth 2020 we have. This is very important, and this is very important points given by the ILO. Global and regional trends in youth employment is important, and jobs for young people in an evolving technological landscape is very important. And occupational changes and the role of public employment services in helping young people to navigate the labor markets, inequal distribution of the benefit of technological change among young people. These are very important points, and policy implications preparing a better future for young people are very important. And while we are coming to Turkey, I can say that there was a working group in Antalya 2015. It was very important for the youth employment outcomes. And some results we can talk about. The general decline in labor market engagement among young people has continued in the past 2 years. This is partly because young people are spending more time in education, and which is helping ensure that the future labor force will be better skilled and able to cope with the transformation in the world of work brought about by new technologies. However, it also reflects a significant degree of labor underutilization, as approximately 1/5 of young people worldwide are not in employment, education, or training at the same time. Other challenges requiring a strong policy response include persisting gender gaps in the labor market, the prevalence of informal employment, which affects more than 3/4 of young workers, and of working poverty, which affects is most 1/3. The fact that millions of people, young people around the world, would immigrate permanently if they had to change highlights the urgent need for policymakers to tackle the labor market barriers and precarious conditions at work faced by young people in many countries. This is very important. And I have a suggestions that I told at the beginning. What could we do? The global youth employment rate is increasing day by day, you know. If we don't give them some opportunities, we can lose them, according to me. So we need them to learning work and earning money, and at the same time studying. But how can we do it? +1 training model we uses many times in our faculties and vocational schools. The students takes lessons and they go to sectors as internships related to their fields in their last year. With the university industry cooperation is very important for us, and students gain work experience while they are going to the university, while they are still studying, and receive a job offer before they graduate. This is the very important point also. With the university industry cooperation, students gain work experience while they are still studying and receiving a job offer before they graduate, while students are given their graduates together and by the companies they have stayed in the sector, and the academicians who follow the internship. We are giving some marks and we are intertwined with the industry, and I can say that we required over 70 to 80 of our students while they are on internship. This is very important for us, and I want them, all our youth all over the world can use this kind of training model. And similar training models and business models can be developed all over the world in domestic and global platform to have a job and to take their education at the same time. Thank you to listen me. I hope we will do best things for you. Thank you to listen me.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the presentation. Let's move to target 8.7, that is end modern slavery, trafficking, and child labor. I would like to invite our speaker of the event, Dr. Vijay Kumari, Assistant Professor, Department of History. She is coordinator of the Child Development Organization and a resource person of various programs of gender equality and children development. Over to you, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
A very good afternoon to all of you. And first of all, I want to thank Dr. Reshmi ma'am for giving an opportunity to present my views. And the topic is end slavery, trafficking, and child labor. According to UN Sustainable Goal 8.7, it means take immediate effective measures to eradicate forced labor, end modern slavery and human trafficking, and secure the prohibition and elimination of worst forms of child labor, including recruitment and use of child soldiers, and by 2025 end child labor in all its forms. To achieve it, we must work across organizations and borders. We must work with partners, including those focused on other SDGs and other targets, because there is crossover between them. Modern slavery occurred in every region of the world. According to recent studies, modern slavery was most prevalent in Africa, 7.6% per thousand people, and followed by Asia and Pacific, then Europe and Central Asia. So it shows we should be very cautious regarding this problem. ILO, International Labour Organization Conventions 138 and in 182, it described child labor as employment below the minimum age, hazardous unpaid household services, worst forms of child labor. Child labor is a form of exploitation that all we know that it is a violation of human right. And child labor deprives millions of girls and boys of their childhood, their potential, and their dignity. Forced labor is defined as a work or service exacted from any person under the menace of any penalty and for which the said person has not offered himself voluntarily. Human trafficking is also another problem. It defined as recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of an individual by means of threat or use of force or other forms of coercion for the purpose of exploitation. Child labor trafficking victims have diverse socio-economic demographic backgrounds. Trafficking is another great problem in which juveniles with emotional vulnerabilities and those who come from a impoverished backgrounds and those who have been abused are vulnerable to becoming victims of trafficking. Women and children are more likely to the victims of trafficking, and other populations are likely to experience labor trafficking are lesbian, LGBTQIA youth, runaways, homeless youths, etc. And worst forms of child labor includes sale or trafficking of children, debt, bondage, and serfdom, and user procuring or offering of child for prostitution, for the production of pornography or for pornographic purposes, and offering of child for illicit activities. All these come under worst forms of child labor. And child labor and education is closely related. More than 1/3 of all children in child labor are excluded from school. Nearly 28% of 5 to 11-year-olds and 35% of 12 to 14-year-olds in child labor are out of school. Recent history proves that for the first time since 2000, the world did not make any progress in reducing child labor. That means it's increasing. World couldn't make any progress in reducing child labor. Worldwide, 160 million children are engaged in child labor. 79 million of them are performing hazardous work. They are deprived of education and they were not able to complete primary education, and that led to child labor results in producing underskilled, unqualified workers, and that prevents their future life, and they could not lead a quality life. And it's more common in rural areas than in urban areas. And worldwide, 7.1 million children are engaged in forms of domestic work. At the start of 2020, prior to the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, 160 million children, out of which 63 million girls and 97 million boys were in child labor, or 1 in 10 children worldwide. 79 million children, nearly half of all those in child labor, were in hazardous work, directly endangering their health, safety, and moral development. Of the 160 million children in child labor, 89.3 million are young children aged 5 to 11, and the rest belong to other age groups. Globally, 152 million children aged 5 to 17 are in child labor. 1 in 5 children in Africa is involved in child labor, and 1 in 4 victims of modern slavery were children. Half of affected children live in lower middle and upper middle income countries. So the problem is more prevalent in countries experiencing conflict and disaster. If we analyze the causes of child labor, there are many backgrounds or causes are there. Children engaged in child labor work because of their circumstances, because survival demands it, and also adults make use of it. They are trying to exploit it, and educational system were weak. In some such countries also child labor is rate is more. Then there are it's a part of customs and traditions. So these children are excluded from education. Population growth is another problem, and the main problem is poverty. Then the children are not clever to run to escape from it. Adults are exploiting, and all these are the main problems. You can see the picture of children working. So according to recent estimates by ILO and UNICEF, the absolute number of children in child labor increased for the first time in 2 decades from 152 million. It was 150 million in 2016, but 2020 it is 160 million. So within 4 years, 8 million increased. So worst labor practices are also practiced especially in informal sectors, informal economic sectors. So informality is associated with lower and less regular incomes. There exist inadequate and unsafe working conditions. So all these, and also exclusion from social security schemes are all the main causes. Only 17% of population in Africa is covered by at least one social protection benefit. So lack of social protection benefit also one of the main reason for child labor. So it's more dangerous than we think. Article 4 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that no one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. Slavery is the first human right issue and its main concern. And slavery like practices remain a grave problem. So it's very high time to remove it. Continued prevalence of extreme exploitation is a symptom of failure of inclusive development targets. So it's given priority. There are multiple ways in which slavery, forced labor, and trafficking all intersect in conflict as a multi-faceted problem and a global issue. So in the past 5 years, 89 million people experienced some form of modern slavery for periods of time. So the global estimates of modern slavery focused on 2 main issues. One is forced labor and another is forced marriage. Slavery eradication and sustainable development are deeply interconnected and mutually reinforcing objectives. So achieving sustainable development is a key to ensuring the full eradication of slavery, and ending slavery is a fundamental to equitable development. So in order to eradicate slavery in all its forms, the root cause of slavery is poverty, social exclusion, and discrimination, etc. So we have to eradicate the root cause of slavery. Of these, the statistics, 24.9 million people were engaged in forced labor, and 15.4 million people were living in a forced marriage to which they had not consented. Women and girls, as I already mentioned, women and girls are proportionately affected by modern slavery, and 71% of overall total. Children who are in commercial sexual exploitation also is a serious issue. Here is the statistics also given. Some children in child labor work more than 43 hours in a week. 70% of children in child labor work in agriculture, and 1/3 of children in child labor are completely outside the education system. So worldwide, 160 million children are engaged in child labor, and 79 million of them are performing hazardous work. Women and girls accounted for 71% of modern slavery And debt bondage is also another problem. So we have to improve the socio-economic conditions of people, especially the poor. And by eradicating poverty, we can to some extent we can eradicate modern slavery, because human rights violations always committed with regard to discrimination, social exclusion, and poverty. And COVID-19 and child labor is closely related, because 9 million additional children are at risk of being pushed into child labor by the end of 2022 as a result of COVID pandemic. And children already in child labor may be working longer hours or under worsening conditions. And also COVID-19 resulted in economic distresses, which increased the risk of child labor. And closure of schools, nearly 1.5 million schools were closed due to COVID pandemic and lockdowns, especially in India. It impacted 247 million children enrolled in elementary and secondary schools. So they were all not able to attend schools because of many reasons, because of digital divide and their poverty, etc. So that all affected their education, and they were forced to drop out. So child labor if we come to analyze child labor in India, as per census 2011, the total child population in India in the age group 5 to 14 years is 259.6 million. So child labor refers, as already we said, it exploitation of children for manual work, and which deprive them from their childhood and fundamental rights to education and health. We have passed, our parliament has passed Right to Education Act, right of child for free and compulsory education between 6 to 14 years in India. That was passed by Parliament of India on 4th August 2019, and the act came into force on 1st April 2010. So there were 16.8 more children aged 5 to 11 in child labor in 2020. COVID crisis increased child labor, and the pandemic heightened the risk of child labor also. And there was rise in poverty, and the children were dependent on midday meal. They were not able to get it during pandemic time. That is also another reason. So how can we end child labor? With the right policy approaches and practical responses. And there is a need for advanced awareness. Legal commitment is very important. Strict policy implementations are needed. Then we have to promote decent work for adults and young people of legal working age. We have to extend social protection systems, and we have to expand access to free and quality public education. We have to address child labor in supply chains. We have to protect children in situations of crisis, and government should make strong and stringent laws to be enacted against child labor. And affordable, quality, employable education system is important. And we have to improve the economic condition of the very backward people, and strict laws also very important. And ending modern slavery will require a multifaceted response, because it connected with the economic, social, cultural, and legal aspect. Stronger social protection floors are necessary, and extending labor rights in the informal economy is also very important. Then there is 3P paradigm is also very useful, which was declared in US Department of State in 2016. That is prosecution, protection, and prevention. Prosecution component ensures that trafficking offenders are held accountable and punished for their criminal actions. And protection aspect involves taking a victim-centered orientation to identifying and supporting victims of human trafficking. And prevention related to raising awareness about human trafficking and offering social and economic solutions to discourage trafficking. So according to ILO Director General Guy Ryder, inclusive social protection allows families to keep their children in school even in the face of economic hardship, and increased investment in rural development and decent work in agriculture is essential. We are at pivotal moment, and much depends on how we respond. This is a time for renewed commitment and energy to turn the corner and break the cycle of poverty and child labor. Ending slavery requires multifaceted responses, and stronger social protection flows are necessary. So in every way, we have to give utmost importance to this goal because it is closely related with other SDG goals. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.
हाँ बोल रिद्धि बोल ना.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Dr. Vijaya, please stop your slide sharing.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Slide sharing.
Thank you for the presentation, ma'am. It was really very interesting. To sum up this event, I would like to invite Dr. Rashmi Gujarati, ma'am, to please say a few words.
Thank you, Riddhi. And on the behalf of CT University and Tradepreneur, I extend a really hearty thanks to all the speakers for gracing your important work, share with us your findings and opinions today. You spare your time with us from your busiest schedule to grace the occasion. Today, we have learned a lot of things and we have got an opportunity to hear you and your thoughts. And this will be surely be giving to encourage in our future events. Without you all speakers, this event is not success. So this team is working very well and we are supporting in the UN Sustainable Development Goal. Already in June, we have organized UN Sustainable Development Goals 17, and you all speakers were there, and same in this goal, UN Sustainable Development Goal 8, and all our speakers has enlightened lot of things in all the targets has been explained very well. Today with us, we have Dr. Ahmad from MSU University, Malaysia. He has very well spoken and highlighted on 8.9 and focus how we can promote sustainable tourism. Thank you, Professor Ahmad. You have given your precious time. Professor Susanna from University of Malaysia has also enlightened on the banking insurance and the target and issues and challenges of the target 8. Thank you very much, Professor Susanna, for giving us your time. Dr. Uttam from Indonesia has focused on increasing trade, and you have enlightened very well that how we can boost our trade. Dr. Ashina, my big thanks to you. You were suffering in COVID and then also you have given your time here. We all wish to your family that all will recover very well. And we want to listen this news from your side that you all are safe and well. And already you have spoken a lot of things related with the youth employment, and due to pandemic, what our youth has faced, you have explained here. You have explained the situation of the Turkey also. Not only in the Turkey, all the country has faced this situation. Due to pandemic, each and every sector has been affected by this. So we all are focusing on that how we can support in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And in every semester, we are focusing and we are giving our time only to give the awareness to our young generation that they can know that what is the goal and the target of the UN to be complete up to 2030. So my big thanks to all the speakers, those who have given their important time, and all are the partner of the UN partner portal. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.